We're going to bring in the front bench right now to talk a little bit about how this is affecting domestic politics around this issue. Joining us tonight, senior advisor, I should say, to the Liberal Ontario governments of Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne, Dan Moulton. He's now a partner with Crestview Strategy. Next to him, that's Shakir Chambers. He worked in Prime Minister Stephen Harper's office before becoming a policy advisor to the International Trade Minister. Kathleen Monk is here in studio. She's former director of communications to the late Jack Layton, now the principal owner of Monk & Associates. And next to her, Stephanie Levitz is a senior reporter in the Globe and Mail's Parliament Hill Bureau. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Nice to see you. I promise we will have that clip, I believe, from David Eby in a moment. But in the lead up to it all, and we explained this a bit earlier, Stephanie, like there was a letter that came out last night from Pierre Poilievre basically saying, like, you got to approve a pipeline fast given this uncertainty. I thought what was very interesting in the way that the Prime Minister responded today was there was so much less daylight between their positions in the aggregate than there might have been a few years ago between a Liberal Prime Minister and the Conservative leader. Like, there's not, you know, the details are not exactly the same, but both are saying, yeah, we got to do more of that in light of this, basically.
Isn't that one of Pierre Poilievre's greatest frustrations, right, is to see the thing that he has advocated for and championed for so long now being taken up by a sitting Liberal Prime Minister? Right. And it makes it challenging for Mr. Poilievre again and again to carve out his space. So now he moves into a different space, which is hold Mr. Carney accountable, right, and say, hey, Prime Minister, you promised you were going to do this. You said you were going to do it. We need to do it fast. Do it faster. I'm not sure that's feasible. I mean, we don't still have a proponent, as far as I know, for said pipeline, but obviously they're moving in the same direction. The question is whether Mr. Carney can deliver now on that thing he says he wants to do.
Yeah, the question of delivery, I think, is where the space for that side of the opposition lies. There's another opposition, Kathleen, as you will well know, with you Democrats who take a different view. At the provincial level, we do have that clip from Premier Eby, so I'm just going to play it and then I'll get your reaction.
We're happy to work with Alberta and the federal government on ensuring access to tidewater. But what we don't support, what I don't support, is taxpayers paying for another publicly owned pipeline across the north. If we're going to do public investment into our resources here in Canada, I think it might be time to pivot that discussion to a refinery. We still buy oil products from the United States. I don't understand why.
So he had lightly intimated the refinery stuff before, and New Democrats provincially in Alberta had talked about that a lot. Not a whole lot of change in his position. What do you make of how that might unfold?
Well, it might not come as no surprise to you, but once again, I think that Premier Eby is the most sane person in terms of when we're talking about these issues. You know, he's rational, he's pragmatic. He's saying, you know, don't call for a pipeline that has, as Steph says, no proponent, no backing in terms of financial money, and frankly, isn't necessary right now. So I think Eby was, you know, calm, cool, and collected today. Once again, reiterating he's happy to kind of help Alberta, you know, expand the capacity of the existing pipeline, but also talking about a sensible thing like possibly developing some refineries, you know, and expanding refinery capacity. My great-grandfather worked in the Montreal refineries for Petrofina many years ago. Those are good jobs. We can actually refine some of this oil here. And if the question or the panic that is currently gripping some folks in Canada right now is the fact that our oil, our heavy oil, is similar to Venezuela, and now we're going to be in competition with Venezuela in terms of getting our oil processed through those American refineries, well then, hey, why not actually refine some of it here? I mean,
because it's so much more expensive.
It is so much more expensive. But the reality is that, I mean, we could actually do more value-added processing to all of our natural resources, not just oil, but, you know, lumber, you name it, to steel manufacturing. We've seen how we've been hamstrung, frankly, by the fact that even though we have a steel industry here, we actually don't manufacture and do those value-added jobs in the same way, and we export our raw resources to some extent to other countries as opposed to doing that processing and value-added work here.
Yeah, I think that definitely exemplifies sort of the different lines of argument around this. It's just, again, unique, Dan, that I think like there is less space between what you're hearing from Conservatives and Liberals at this moment in time. And it feels as though, particularly for the Liberals, and I don't mean this as a crass a way as it sounds, but what is going on in Venezuela, the potential of more competition from there, almost provides a little bit more political coverage to take a position that would not have been as salient for them, you know, as recently as a year ago.
Absolutely. What's happening in Venezuela underscores, I think, everything the Prime Minister has been doing since he was elected to get more of our energy resources developed, to work with the provincial governments to accomplish that goal. I think the political reality here is, as has been discussed, most challenging for Pierre Poilievre. This issue has been taken off the table for him. He is, through his comments last night and today on getting a pipeline approved that doesn't have a proponent, he's trying to play his way into the story because it's the only way he can get any attention right now. I think a lot of political advisors to the leader of the opposition would probably be saying, affordability is the issue we win on right now. Canadians have just spent the last few weeks spending tons of money at shopping malls and grocery stores. They're looking at their credit card bills and they're feeling anxious about affordability. But Pierre Poilievre could have started the new year with a real focus on that issue. And I think it would have landed like a tree in the woods, right? I don't think there would have been any attention on it. We wouldn't be talking about it tonight. And so I do think it was smart of the Conservatives to try and deal themselves into the story that we would be focused on today and that Canadians would be, the news media and Canadians would be paying a lot of attention to. The trouble is there's just no room for them in this, right? Like as you point out, there's no daylight really between the two positions. I don't think the Conservatives are going to move many votes on it. It's just this sort of attempt to get into the news and get some attention on their argument here.
The only chance I see for there to be more daylight is on what sort of Steph and Kathleen referenced, Shakir, which is like execution, right? Because eventually there isn't a private proponent, but there is a proposition coming in July, apparently, according to the pipeline's new website, which has just gone up on the Alberta government's page. Like there will be some sort of submission made and ultimately a decision, I think, will have to be made in one way or the other. The Prime Minister will have to be more unequivocal about his position on the prospect of that pipeline. That's not in the near term. Like, that's not in the next few weeks. Like I said, even Alberta has set out a timeline for that submission, not until the summer. Maybe they're playing the long game around that, but it still is very different than what you would expect. For example, if you put that letter out last night to Justin Trudeau, what Trudeau would have said in response.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not a lot of wiggle room here for Pierre to kind of attack Carney on this issue, but I think you and Stephanie have it right. It's about the accountability and making sure this government executes. I know they like to call themselves Canada's new government, but I mean, listen, under Trudeau, they were very good at making announcements, very good at signing things, very bad at implementation and execution. Mark Carney has said a lot of great things, and hopefully he can deliver, but right now he's not really delivering on a lot of things. So I think for Pierre Poilievre, the thing here right now is make sure that whatever Carney says he's going to do, an MOU is nice to see, but are you actually going to move forward? If we get a private proponent, are you actually going to go to David Eby and say, you know what, this is going to move forward regardless of your opposition? I think that's where Pierre is trying to find some daylight, ensuring that things do get done. Because again, Carney came to power to say we're going to build things at speeds unimaginable. So let's get this done, right? Let's move this forward. And I think Pierre, he understands this is a conservative issue that Carney has taken a hold of, but the one thing he can do is ensure this gets executed properly and gets delivered to the people of Alberta and to Canada writ large.